Hey folks, how's everybody doing today? Hope you're having a good Thursday. We've got a little bit to finish up here with Chapter 1, our introduction to Python, GitHub, and Pycharm. And I'm also going to talk about the first lab that we're going to have come Monday. Just want to give you a heads up on what we're going to do for it. I'm going to go through it. Essentially, I'll go through it now. The lab is really your chance to make sure all the tools work for you. It's not a very interesting lab, I'm sorry. Just like a getting to know you kind of style lab. And then again, if you're not comfortable coming to campus, I get it, I understand. You're welcome to do these remotely. We can do screen shares over Zoom or over my Discord server. Totally up to you. I want the time to, it's the time set aside for you folks to work on these little practice assignments, and that I can walk around and help. And if we're not physically there, if you're not physically in person, I can't like look over your shoulder, we can do a screen share. Shouldn't be too big of a deal. We've done virtual labs before. Most of last year was virtual labs. I only had like 3 people come to the very first lab last fall when everything was going a little crazy. So hopefully we're in a little better shape now that we've got this vaccine rolled out and we kind of understand what's going on here. But again, if it's not for you, that's okay, and we'll make it do. We'll make do, we'll make it work. Words are hard, my friends. Words are hard. Hey, Trumpet Man, how you doing today? Now, I'm assuming you actually play the trumpet, right? You don't just have a Trumpet Man as a username and have nothing to do with trumpets. So I played the cello in school, but never was in band. I was in symphony orchestra, so got to know a couple people who played trumpet, but never like in a marching band or anything fun like that. Be a little difficult to march around with the cello, turns out. All right, so we're going to finish up Chapter 1. We got through pretty much all the content on Tuesday. Ooh, jazz trumpet. I love jazz music. Jazz is fantastic. So my personal music skills are rather lacking. I did the orchestra stuff for fun, and I thought it was interesting. But to be able to like kind of improvise music on the fly just blows my mind how people can do that. So my hat's off to all the jazz musicians out there who are good at that sort of thing. And just, I don't know, you have to like feel the music, right? To understand how that works. And if I don't have something in front of me, I can't play it for sure. So, all right. So again, we're going to talk about a little more about Python, do some more practice, talk about GitHub and Pycharm. And I've got the first lab assignment out now. And again, labs are going to be assigned on Mondays typically. This one, I just want to go through the tools, give you another chance to see everything because this is all new. And then they're going to be due the following Monday by 11:59 p.m. The goal is you get it done in that hour 45 block, right? Before you walk out the doors or get up from your desk from the assigned lab time, the goal is that it's done, right? It's not a large assignment that should take you hours and hours and hours and hours. Right? We've got other projects for that, right? For some bigger things. These are little snippets of practice. Hey, let's do this thing that we've talked about in class. Let's do it. Make sure that it works for you. And then I can help you get those things up and running. Okay, that's kind of the goal. So, that's how that should work. That's the idea there. Don't forget, we also do have the Syllabus Quiz out here as well. That's due tonight, I believe. If I did September 9th, 11:59 p.m. It's just 5 questions. Really just to make sure that you understand what the academic integrity policy is, and for you to think about planning for this course. That was a tip I learned in one of these online training things I did, how to be a better educator, which is super weird because in primary school or high school, elementary, middle school, high school sort of thing, all the teachers have to go get a degree specifically on how to teach and how to educate people. For the college level, we just assume if you have a master's or better in that field, you can probably teach people. And I guess the idea is that if you spent 6+ years in college, you kind of understand what happens in college classes, and you'll just kind of emulate that. But that's I don't know, it's a little weird. So I'm glad we've done a little bit more research and we kind of understand how learning happens a little bit better now. And we're improving, but the whole higher ed is just really weird because we typically just repeat the things that we've done, and the things that we've done were things that people learned before us, that they're just repeating the same things, and no one really knows what they're doing. So we've got some cool professional development and some cool opportunities to learn more about how learning happens. And I think I mentioned before, I don't actually like to say my role is teaching you things. I think my role is to help you folks learn it. Because I'm going to give examples, you've got the textbook to look at, I'm going to answer your questions, I'm going to give you projects to practice these things. But really, you folks are the ones doing the learning, right? And learning happens a little differently for everybody, which is interesting. Turns out that whole learning styles thing is just a bunch of crap. That's not actually how it works. But you learn things by doing and by practicing, right? And you take some information, you start applying it, and you start figuring it out in your head. Oh, hey, this is what we're going to do, right? And this is how it works, and you kind of fit those pieces together. So that's my goal, is to help you folks learn the material. And that's the idea with all these assignments and all the practice you're going to get in the textbook, all sorts of good stuff there. So, sorry, I keep looking up. So I've got my webcam right here in the middle, boop, there, and I've got a second monitor right above that. And I've got chat up on that monitor up to the right, which makes it look like I'm looking that way. I don't know. So it, if I stare right at the webcam, I can't see anything else on my screen. So apologies for that. And this is a cold brew coffee. My friend who runs the cafe just around the corner finally made the cold brew after I had pestered her. It wasn't even pestering. I just asked her, like, every time I came in, hey, do you have cold brew? Hey, do you have cold brew? And she's like, oh, no, I haven't made it yet. I haven't made it. So she finally made a batch for me. And this stuff is phenomenal. But I'm a little bit hyped up. So please feel free to shout at me, and I'll slow down, and it's no big deal there. And I do also have, if you folks prefer asking questions over voice chat, I do have a lecture voice chat channel in the Discord server. I'm not in there by default, but if you'd like to hop in there and ask questions over voice, I'm happy to hop in and get that up and running. It's no big deal to turn that on. That way you don't have to type everything through chat or wait till Mondays or office hours or anything like that to meet with me. So just whatever is going to work best for you, let me know. And again, we always have the asynchronous option as well, if that works better for your schedule. I'm happy to answer questions asynchronously. I don't have any standing office hours. I'm not sure if before or after labs would work for you folks for meeting in person. And honestly, I'd rather not meet in like a small office with poor circulation anyway, so it's probably easier to just book them by appointment, and we could just do them virtually over Zoom or Discord or phone calls or whatever works for you. So let me know if you want to chat. I'm happy to help and talk just general tech stuff. If you want to just chat about general tech stuff, that's always interesting, or specific things about the course or the program, any questions you might have, I'm happy to talk with you. So, all right, so we got the syllabus quiz coming up. I'll post the quiz for chapter 1 after class today, and we'll have till next week, next Thursday, 11:59 p.m. to get that one done. Again, the goal for the chapter quizzes is that it's an additional incentive for you to read the text. I know there's all sorts of practice in the zyBooks, and it's fantastic, but we'll have quizzes throughout. And again, they should be free points. It's open book, open notes, open internet, but you probably don't need to go out and Google these things, right? Because it's all coming from the textbook and the stuff that I say in class. If you're going on Googling and finding weird things on Stack Overflow, you can get down some funky rabbit holes, and it's probably easier to just go look up that section in the textbook and go find what we're talking about. Okay, so it'll be 10 questions or less every week over the chapter that we've talked about that week. And it should be free points, right? And it's open book, open notes. So do let me know if the questions don't make a lot of sense, because I do write them myself. It's not like a test bank or anything that we're getting from the publisher. So occasionally there are typos because I write them myself, and I'm not perfect. So if something doesn't make sense, please let me know. Please ask. I'm happy to answer questions about those as well. So I'll post that quiz coming up as well for you. And then we can talk about the first lab. We'll go through all these steps here. In the very first lab we're going to do, it's not very interesting. It's just, let's make sure our tools work. That's sort of the reason why we have this one here. So if you go to lab 0, there's a link here. Now what's really cool, with this link, there's this GitHub Classrooms tool. It automates the process of creating repositories for me. I used to have to do this by hand. I mean, not Actually, I wouldn't point and click and do them all by hand. I had a script that did it for me, but I'd still have to like go run the script and plug in all your usernames and things like that. So you'll need an account on github.com. If you don't have an account, it will ask you to log in, and you can just go make one. So yeah, you'll need an account on github.com. I guess I can put that note in here. Let me make a note of that real quick, in case you didn't already. Come on, Canvas. Need a github.com account for this. It's free. Please don't pay. Right? The free account, don't pay for anything. Totally free account. If you have it to plug in payment info, you're doing it wrong. Excuse me. All right, so you click this Classroom GitHub link, and it will take you to a page. And if you're logged in, great. If you're not logged in, it'll say log in. It'll say, hey, do you want to accept this assignment? CIS 1501, Fall 2021, Lab 0. We're going to do this for every lab. We're going to do this for every project. It's in the Charnesky organization. I don't have an org set up officially for U of M Dearborn or anything yet. It turns out there's a lot of paperwork to do for that sort of thing. So it's just in my personal organization here. So don't worry about it, but that's where it is. And you'll say accept the assignment, and then it's going to say, oh, great, you accepted it. We're configuring your repository. This may take a few minutes. It's never taken that long. Usually it's like 5 seconds. So by the time you finish reading it or count to 5, refresh, and now we get a link. So it says, okay, your assignment repository has been created. So anytime you click that GitHub Classroom link, if you've already accepted it, we'll take you here and say you're ready to go. Here's the link to your repository. So this is the repository that we're going to use. And remember, a repository is nothing more than a folder. And it gets all set up. It uses my Python template. And the reason why it uses a template is that it adds this .gitignore file. And a gitignore file is really handy because it tells Git to don't add certain types of files. Remember, Git is really good at watching files for changes. It's going to just look at everything in the folder and see if anything changes. So anything that gets generated here, any of these type of files, anything that matches here, we're not going to add. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. I mean, it's all great. So none of this stuff will get added. Any of this virtual environment stuff is fantastic because we don't want to re-add virtual environments. That's just going to clutter up GitHub, and it'll add all of the default Python install stuff. So that's all great. We just leave that file alone. If it changes, it changes. No, not a big deal here. There's a README, which just says Python template. It's not very interesting. You can always change the README if you want. And then there's the .github. Just leave this folder alone. This is part of the GitHub Classroom workflow. Okay, so it should be all set. So now we have the repository online. GitHub.com knows about it, but our computer doesn't have it. So the easy way to do this, you'll need to have the GitHub Desktop client installed. I should also note that. Sorry. See, this is why we're doing it here. It'll make it less confusing for you folks on Monday. And please install the GitHub Desktop client. Sign into it. That's at desktop.github.com. That should be a link. If I put that, it'll turn into a link. There we go. Got a link. So desktop.github.com will give you a little download link. Here, you can download the GitHub client. I already have it installed. This does not need admin permissions to install. This will install as a local user. So on the lab computers, we can install this for ourselves. It's fantastic. We don't need like any sort of special access. Same goes for Python, actually. You can install it. You can install it with a privileged admin account for all users in program files, or you can install it just for your local user. Both ways will work perfectly fine, but it should already be installed for us in the labs. The GitHub Desktop client will install. Once that's installed and you come to your repository, again, it'll have CIS 1501, Fall 2021, Lab 0 dash. This will be your username. So whatever username you set up here is going to be part of the URL now, which is cool. So my favorite way of doing this, and again, there's like 3 different ways to do it, but this is, I think, the fastest. You click this big old green code button here, and you'll say Open with GitHub Desktop. It's going to launch your GitHub Desktop application. It might ask you, like, hey, do you want to open the app? And I tell it, yeah, all the time. It'll take you right to this clone step. So cloning a repository means I'm going to make a copy of that repository on my computer. Now, Git is a distributed source control tool. So if you have a clone of the repository, you have the entire repository, anything and everything, all of the history, which is really cool. It can cause some issues with really, really big projects, but that's a software engineering problem. Don't worry about that. We should be perfectly fine. And what it's going to do is it's going to put a folder on your computer in your user documents GitHub with the name of the repository. So it's going to make a folder on your computer. Fantastic. That's what we want. And now there's two really handy shortcuts here in the GitHub Desktop client. They're both in the repository menu. The first one is View on GitHub. If you don't remember what the website is, you click View on GitHub and it will relaunch out, or it will launch out to that website. Take you right to the main page for your repository. And you can see all the contents. This is the central repository. This is github.com's view of the repository. So if you don't see your code here, I won't be able to see your code here. Right, and I'll take you through the steps. Don't worry. I will figure out how to get our code out here. And the idea is that we synchronize. We take our local copy and we synchronize with github.com in the cloud. And we make sure they're in sync. So if you have changes locally here, you push the changes out to the cloud. If there's changes done somewhere else, because Git is also used by many, many, many organizations around the world, that especially for collaboration. It's a fantastic collaboration tool for teams working on software. If someone else makes changes and synchronizes, then the cloud has changes that you don't have, and it's called pulling. You will pull the changes from the cloud down to your local repository to get in sync. So it's a push and a pull process. Push and pull from local to, they call it the origin, or the cloud, the central repository. So you can always go out to the website and see the latest version that it knows about. Okay. The other really handy shortcut is repository show in Explorer. This will just open up your little file explorer view right to this repository folder that's in your C users documents GitHub name of the repository. And you'll just see the contents of it. Again, this is just in Windows side. Now, if you don't see everything, you're going to want to go to your view options here and make sure you have file name extensions and hidden items. That's weird that wasn't there. That should have been my default. I'm confused now. I should be able to change that. It's my folder and search options. View, show hidden files, and don't hide extensions. I want to apply to all folders. Okay. That should have already happened. That's super weird. But anyway, there's also a .git folder. Now you don't see this, and the website doesn't show you this. .git is where all of the Git magic happens. So everything that happens behind the scenes is done inside this folder. Don't ever touch it. Just leave it alone and just pretend it's not there. But it exists, and Git, the source control tool, uses that to track everything that's happening here. Now remember, a repository is just a folder. If I put something new out here, like here's a new text file, we'll call this test.txt, and I'm going to go put something in here. We'll say Happy Thursday. And I'm save and close it. If I come back to my GitHub client, sometimes it takes a second. It's going to say, hey, it's green here with a plus. This is a new file. Something is new in this folder. So Git is tracking everything inside of that folder down to the specific line level. We'll get to that line level detail in a minute. It says, hey, there's a new file. So what we can do is you do this process of making a commit. A commit is a snapshot of that point in time of what was in the folder. So the commit says, okay, save the state of the folder. Here's the contents. Here's what everything looked like at that point when I hit commit. So to make a commit, you have to give it a message. So this first line here in the bottom left is a summary. This is required. The description is optional. Summary is here. So I'm just going to say test.txt. Now, organizations have certain conventions and rules around what should go in commit messages. I could care less. Some people like to put silly things in there. Some people like to write essays. I mean, whatever you want to do, perfectly fine. But you will be able to see your commit summaries online. So it is usually a good rule of thumb to make it meaningful. Don't just put blah, right? Like a little short, just a couple words. What is this commit for? Why do I have this snapshot? Well, hey, test.txt. I'm going to click my commit button. Commit to main. Once you have the commit, you can almost always get back to it. Now, it's possible to screw it up, but it takes a lot of work to screw up a commit, and we really frown upon that in the industry, right? Like once there's a commit, that's like preserved in history forever. We want that there. Undoing it is really considered bad form. But now I have it locally But github.com, the central repository, the origin, doesn't have it. So now my buttons here turn to push. I can say push, I can say push, I can hit Control P. Got lots of options here. Whatever you want to do, you want to push your change that is local out to github.com to synchronize. So it's going to think about it for a second here. And then we should go back to fetch. And fetch means, okay, just go look for any changes, see if anything has changed. So we're in good shape. So now if I go back to my browser here and I refresh, I'm going to see now there's a test.txt. And I can click on it, and you can actually look at the text contents of files. Let me zoom that in a little bit here for you. I see Happy Thursday. Okay. Now, there's a button here called Add File and Upload Files. Please don't ever do this. Okay. That you don't need to do it this way, right? And doing it this way means you're not using the proper workflow of using commits. So please don't ever use the upload files option. I have people do this all the time and it drives me nuts, right? Let's use the Git workflow like we're supposed to. Make the changes in your local repository, push them out, do all that stuff. I promise it will take a little bit of getting used to, but it's well worth it. Using a source control tool is fantastic, even if the code's just for you, because now we have it out on github.com, and github.com makes their money selling this service to organizations, so they're not going to lose our code. So something could happen, hopefully nothing happens to your laptop or your computer and it breaks. I don't wish that upon anybody, but if it does, your code will still be out here on github.com and you'll still have something. You're not going to lose all your work. Now, you can also make as many commits as you want. You can commit every 5 minutes if you care to. You can commit every hour. Some people I work with do it every hour. Some people do it when something is done, when they've reached, okay, I've got something working or I have some little chunk done. Whatever you want to do is great. I recommend you commit early and often. So get into the habit of commit and push, because once you've pushed out to github.com, you're not going to lose it. If you don't commit until the end of an 8-hour workday or whatever it happens to be, and maybe 7.5 hours in, something bad happens to your computer, you've lost a whole day, which is really unfortunate. So just commit early and often, and it just helps keep things from getting into trouble. All right, so that's a plain text file. Again, that's not all that interesting. It's not even Python code. So I'm going to open up Pycharm. Now the trick here is that in Pycharm, when we make our projects, we need to put them in the repository folder, in the folder here, so that Git can track the changes. So when I make a new project in Pycharm, I'm going to point it at this folder here. And that's going to be how we're going to make sure our code gets into github.com. So don't take the default location of like Pycharm projects, because that's not in Git. I'm going to let Pycharm think for a minute here. Going to think for a little while, I guess. Oh, good. My Zoom had to update. Finished updating here. So again, I have the course repository for all the example code we go over for every chapter. I'll give you examples and we'll talk through things, and I'll post all the stuff. That's going to be all out there public. What's cool about these lab assignments and all the project things, you'll notice there's this little lock icon here. This means it's a private repository. This means no one else has access to it. One of the cool things that GitHub Classroom Workflow does is it gives you access and it gives me access. No one else will have access to it. So it's a nice private repository. No one else is going to see your code. Not that you'd be tempted to look at your classmates' code, but you can't find it because it's a private repository here. So life is good. All right, so I'm going to go to File, New Project. File, New Project. Right, and I need to find that location. So in my location, I'm going to browse here. I'm going to browse. Here we go. And in my GitHub folder, I'm going to find my... Oh, where's my project 0? My goodness. Where'd it go? No. GitHub. Oh, there it is. I just had to refresh. It was confused. So CIS 1501, fall 2021, lab 0. Great. There's my folder. I'm going to grab this folder and say, okay, that's my path. This is where I'm putting my project. Okay. Using my existing interpreter, I want to make a main PY. Fantastic. Life is good. Say, okay. It says it's not empty. Do you want to create a project from existing sources? No, I don't want to do that. That's weird. That's fine. We'll just say create. Okay, sure, why not? Oh, usually you put it in another folder. This is fine. It should be okay. Okay, so it just doesn't make our main file. So if I would have given it another folder, it would have made my main file. That's okay. So we have the project, and we can see the test.txt, we can see the README. Just ignore all those. I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to say new Python file. So I'll add this myself. So we'll call this lab 0. There we go. Now it adds a new Python file here. Now, Pycharm actually knows about Git, and it understands that this is a Git repository. So it can do its own workflows with Git. Now, and you get some cool little buttons over here. I like that it does that, and if you are always going to use this IDE, that's fantastic. My general preference is to do everything with the Github Desktop client, because that's the same no matter which IDE you use. If you're using Pycharm, or if you're doing something in a different language, you can always use the same client for that here. So I'm just going to ignore that and say cancel. Not a big deal. And then we can do our, let me zoom this in a little bit here, we'll do our print hello world, and make sure that runs. Right click and run. And we should get a little hello world output. Let's take a peek. Hello world. All right, so life is looking pretty good. So it runs the Python executable. It's interpreting my Python file here. I'm getting my hello world output. Looks okay. So now I'm going to come back to my GitHub client, and it's going to say, hey, there's a bunch of stuff here. I get a .idea. So anything in .idea, that's all Pycharm files, just leave them alone. If they change, they change. No big deal. We're going to ignore them. What we care about is, do you have a Python file? lab0.py. I see my print hello world. Fantastic. So now I can give it a commit summary. My summary here is, this is hello world. I'll commit, and then I'm going to push. Oh, now it comes up with a bunch of new stuff. There's a bunch of other .idea files. Great. It's all good. So this is other junk. Don't worry about it. Just commit the changes. Leave them alone. If they change, they change. Not a big deal. Now it'll say, hey, I have 2 commits to push. That's fine. I'm going to push. It's going to synchronize. I can come back out to my github.com and refresh. And I'll see lab0.py. I can click on it, and I can see, hey, here's hello world. Look at that. We're in pretty good shape so far. So we've got a good start. So I'm going to come back to the lab here. Okay, we're going to make a basic hello world application that also outputs your name, your pronouns, your major, your reason for taking the class, and anything else you'd like me to know about you. Then I'll show you how to submit the URL to the feedback pull request in a minute. Okay, and we'll get there in a second. All right, so I need to go, I did hello world. Now I need name, pronouns, major, reason for taking the class, and anything else. So I'll print this. My name is Eric Trineski. Print pronouns he, him, his. So at the project view over here on the far left, Trumpet Man, you right-click the folder and you'll say new Python file. And it'll ask you, what do you want to name the file? The name doesn't really matter, but I called it lab 0. So generally you want the names to match, but Python won't care if you call it apples. Okay. The names, pronouns, major. I'm actually technically on leave at the moment due to some family medical issues, but hoping to get back to my program come winter. So I'm in the Doctor of Engineering in Automotive Systems and Mobility. So that's a big mouthful, but that's the name of the program here at Dearborn. So I'm a lecturer and a student. It's kind of cool. Reason for taking the class. I'm the... Oops. So I can't do an apostrophe here, because if I do another apostrophe, notice it thinks I'm done with all my text here. So this is a reason why I might want to use the double quotes here. So I can say, I'm the instructor. Right? Or I'm taking the class because I'm the instructor. Sure. And print anything else. I probably in quotes here again. I'm a giant nerd. Love games, computers, Dungeons and Dragons, and I don't know, sure, other, and the outdoors. I do like the outdoors, despite it not being a video game. Sure. All right, so I got all that, and we should be in pretty good shape. So I'm going to run it, make sure it runs. I should get my output here. Okay, hello world, my name, all that. So anything I put in here, right, is just getting printed right out to the screen. Looks nice and easy. So I'm going to come back to my GitHub client, and it's going to say, hey, something changed. Workspace changed. I don't care. Like, it's actually showing you, like, somewhere in here has, like, the last line that you were on or something weird like that. I forget where it is. I don't know. So, I mean, sure. Let it change. But lab 0 we'll see is orange. So the file changed. So it says, hey, this line is gone. This line is new. Now, they look the same to us, but you'll notice there's this tiny little red thing here. This is saying this was the end of the file. This line, technically, what's at the end of this line is a new line or carriage return, or both, actually, because we're in Windows land. So there's an invisible character here that says, hey, go down a line. We don't see it. So the line is technically different. Sure. So we'll let it change. So we'll say lab 0 complete. As my commit summary, I'll hit commit to main. That takes the snapshot of that point in time, and I'll push. Now, I just want to show you, because Git is really good at line level changes. Right? If I want to put another line in here, right? Maybe I wanted to say print my program is like that, and put in that change. If I come back to the GitHub client, it's going to tell me, oh, hey, line 3, this is what used to be here on the left, and then on the right is the new line numbers. This line was added between this line and this line. So Git tracks things to the line level change, and that's really handy for looking at code. So it doesn't say, oh, the whole file is different. It can say this particular line was changed or added, or this particular line was removed, or whatever it happens to be. So maybe I'll actually put that in here instead, like that. And I'm going to go save my changes. And now I look at it, and it says, okay, this line was removed, and this line was added, and it even shows me in highlighted here, this part was added specifically to be new. The whole line is different, but this was what is new on that line compared to the previous one. Okay, so that's cool. So this is just more descriptions. I'll commit and push. Again, commits are free. Make as many of them you want. I don't care. Now that we've got that done, what we're going to do, we're going to come back to our website here. I'm going to click on my repository. Like anytime you just click this repository name, it'll take you back to the home page. So I'm going to check and see that the latest version is here. Okay, this is your sanity check. If you can see your code here on github.com, I'll be able to see your code there on github.com. All right, so I see all my code. Life looks good. Now what you're going to turn in is you're going to go to this pull request tab here. Click on pull requests, and then feedback is a link you can actually click on. And click on feedback here. Now, there's all sorts of cool things that happen in Git and what a pull request actually is and all this good stuff. We don't have time to get into it. What's cool about this feedback link here is that I can see your code, and I can go to this Files Changed tab, and I can go find your Python file, and add an individual line. I can put a note in here and say, oh, hey, that's a cool program, or whatever it happens to be, right? Add an individual line. I can leave a comment, and then you'll be able to see that comment at the line level. So if I'm evaluating your work and saying, okay, you know, this didn't work quite right, or you got all the points here, or I want to leave you a note, I can do it at the individual line level in your code. Right? I don't need to send you back an attachment with annotations or draw on things or do any of that nonsense. I can just write in your code, I can say, here's my feedback, right, for that particular line. Okay? So it's really handy. This tool is used widely. This is one of the reasons GitHub is so popular. This workflow is really nice for when developers are working together and collaborating. This is essentially you're proposing changes. So a pull request is saying, hey, I want to change these things. Here, I want to request, these are the things I want to pull, right, and put into the central repository. And your teammates can go through and look at it and evaluate your code and say, okay, yes, this looks good, or doesn't, whatever, and sort of feedback. You can have that kind of conversation here right on the website. So it's a great collaborative tool as well, which is awesome. So you'll just give me the URL up here. you'll just copy that in, and we'll go to Canvas. I can go to the student view, and I should have a submit button here. Right, you go to start, and here, what's the website URL? Here's the website URL, and you click submit. That's all you got to do. Okay, that's it. You're all set. Let me exit the student view. Look at that, and now there's a submission for me to grade. Okay, so each lab is going to be 10 points. They're essentially participation points. Right, the goal is you get them done, and if you're stuck on something, literally the lab time is for me to walk around and help you get it done. So it should be more free points for you folks. It's just, if you're putting the time in, you're going to get the points. If you don't turn anything in, I can't give you points for nothing, right? But the goal is, in our lab time, we get the work done. Now, I'm not going to do every lab in front of you like I'm doing today. Again, this is just kind of practice going over some of these tools, because I know all this stuff is new. But every week, we'll practice the things that we've talked about the previous week, right? Because we have lecture Tuesday, Thursday, we have lab the following Monday. So by that time, you should have watched the lectures. You probably should have read the chapter in the book. Whether or not you did any of the zyBooks practice, that's up to you. I recommend you keep up with it, because I've had people before save all the zyBooks work for finals week, and that's a terrible week for you to try and cram in all those participation things, right? So just try and keep up with it, right? I know it's a lot, but that's sort of the idea here. This is a college level class, right? We're a 4-credit class, so 4 hours worth of in-class time, and then double that, 8 hours a week of outside the class work, right? Whether or not it's the quizzes, it's the labs, it's the projects, it's the actually reading the textbook or doing our textbook because it's interactive, working through it. You should plan on 12 hours a week for this course alone, right? Worth of work every week, whether or not it's sitting and listening to the lectures or actually doing the stuff. So plan accordingly, right? You got to put the time in, and we should be in good shape. I don't know that number. It's an 866 number. It doesn't look like any of you folks. All right. So that's the Lab 0 assignment here. Now again, we haven't really done anything interesting. We haven't done anything with arithmetic. That's all right. So now we want to spend a little bit of time talking more about Chapter 1. All right, that's the Lab 0 stuff. I'm going to go open up my recent project. It's Chapter 1. Close that other window. Great. So again, if anything changes, fine. Like this workspace file changed, sure, let it change. Workspace, sure, and just commit and push. It doesn't matter. Let them change. No big deal. All right, so I'm going to go back to my 1501 fall 2021. Here's the course repository. Now this one is public out here, so that anyone can go see the changes, because this is just all the course examples here. And we did some stuff, right? This was our pay here. And we were dealing with floating point numbers with a decimal place. Okay? Now, whole numbers are integers. So if we're dealing with whole numbers, instead of float, we would use int. So if I were to say, let's see, like how many, we'll say this is credits this semester, is going to be an int of an input of how many credits are you taking this semester. So int here is int, is short for integer. Those are whole numbers, right? So no decimal places allowed. We only get whole numbers here with ints. And then we'll say total credits required for degree is an int of an input of how many credits you need to get your degree. Right, so we'll just ask them here. Oops, an int. So notice it highlights that in red, and it says unresolved reference input. Python doesn't know what an input is. I typoed that, so I need input. Okay, and then we'll say, how about credits completed, maybe? Completed is an int of an input. How many credits do you already have completed? We'll get a number of credits completed. So again, these should all be whole numbers. You probably don't have half a credit. I don't think things work like that. I'm going to get rid of that test as well. Okay? So now we can find out how many credits are remaining. So I'll say credits remaining is going to be some arithmetic. That'll be the total credits required for the degree minus the credits completed. And again, depending on how you like to type, whether or not you like to use your mouse or take your hand off, if you just start typing, it's going to suggest, oh, do you mean this variable, total credits required for degree? You can use tab to complete it here. So you don't actually have to type everything. You just give it a couple letters. Or if you like to copy paste, like click on things, if you double click, it'll highlight the whole word. So either one's up to you. So we'll do credits. And then if you have more than one, you can go up and down. Right? So this is credits completed here. Is going to be my credits remaining. That's my arithmetic. Total credits minus how many you have done. And we probably also want to assume that you're going to finish the credits this semester, maybe? So maybe we'll also subtract credits this semester. How about that? And then we can print this semester. You will have, and then again, we just comma separate. If you want to put things in the output, you just comma separate them. This is credits remaining. Credits to complete. Credits to, you will need, how about that? How about need credits to complete your degree. We'll just see if it does our arithmetic, right? Okay, pay rate, sure, $9.50. We do 32 hours. Doesn't even pay for a credit's worth of class. That's sure. All right, how many credits are we taking? If we're taking 12 credits and we have how many credits you need for your degree, 121 or something like that, I forget, or 120, I forget what the number is. I think it's like 122 or 124, isn't it? And how many credits you already have complete? Let's say we did, maybe we already have 12 credits. So 120 minus 12, 96. That looks right. Right? Minus 24, 96 credits. So again, write a little bit of code and run it. Write a little bit of code and run it. You want it to do this iterative process and make sure that the little bit that we have done is working right before we go add more. So now we'll ask them, or we'll say, okay, so if we assume that you're going to do the same number of credits every semester, let's do, so remaining, I don't know what, number of semesters to go is going to be my credits remaining divided by the credits this semester. So assuming you take the same number of credits every semester, we'll find out how many semesters left you have to go. So print, and then we'll tell them. So if you take same, we don't even need that, right? If you take credits this semester, each semester, you will have number of semesters to go. And I can bump this down a line. Sure, that's fine. Generally, Python can get upset sometimes, but it's relatively smart if you let Pycharm do it here. Like if you try and back this up over here to this side, it's going to be really confused. Right? It's going to be upset with me. So just let Python do the formatting here. We'll have semesters left until you graduate. Okay, and we'll run that. Let's see if that works. So, pay rate thing, sure, we'll do that. 32, whatnot. Okay, how many credits? We're doing 12. We need, let's just say 120. And we have 12 credits completed. If you take 12, credits each semester, you will have 8 semesters left until you graduate. Or you have, right? Not will have, you have that many. Okay, we see we're just doing some arithmetic here. Now, the funny thing is going to happen is if we put in some weird numbers here. Like, okay, we got 12 credits. Say it's 122, because I don't actually remember here. We could go look it up, right? It's going to say 8.1666666 semesters left until you graduate. Well, as far as I know, you can't take a 0.16666 semester. You have to take an entire semester worth. You're just not taking the same number of credits. So what we probably want to do is round this number up, right? Now, a couple ways of going about this here. The easy way to do it is to use our built-in libraries in Python. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to round this up. So there's a math library in Python. Is it capital M? Shoot. So up at the top here, we're going to tell Python, hey, I want to use math. So I'm going to say import math. it will give me the math library. Now down here, in my code now, I can say math dot, and math dot gives me all sorts of cool things I can do with math. Right, like the cosine or arc cosine or arcsine, arctangent. Sure, we can do all sorts of cool math things. We can do exponents, we can do factorials. What we want, fabs is for absolute value. I don't know why there's an F there. There's a story behind it, and I don't remember what it is. I just have to go Google it. But that's absolute value. Right, all sorts of cool things you can do in the math library. We want the one called ceil. Now, ceil is short for ceiling. So this will round up to the nearest whole number. So if I say math.ceil, and then in parentheses, I put in my number of semesters to go, it's going to round that number up to the next integer. Let's give that a try. So again, sure, here's pay rate, here's my hours worked, whatever. All right, we do take 12 credits, 122 for the degree, we have 12 completed. It rounds up to the next whole number. Rounds up to 9. Let's run it one more time, and let's make sure we use an even number here. So sure. 12 credits, 120, 12 more credits. Notice that worked out to 8.0, so it just rounds it. It stays at 8. It's not going to the next number. If it's not at an integer, it will round up. Okay, so it works out really well for us. So math.ceil is what we're going to use to do that rounding up. So I'll put a little note here. So math.ceil, some number here, will round up to the nearest whole number, or nearest integer. No, just will round up to the next integer. Hey, thanks so much for following along. Good to have you here. We'll round up to the next integer. Right? If it's not already at an integer, I forget how to say it. There's a right way of saying that. But so if we're already at an integer value, it stays there. Hey, thanks so much for following. Good to have you along. I love seeing that emote. That one's fun. That's my Eric drinking coffee emote. Okay, so we can round up. So again, we can do some arithmetic depending on what kind of input we want. Right? We're either going to use integers or floats, or it could just be a string. Like we could ask them, "Hey, what's your name?" Right? So we could say, "Hey, what's your name here?" So let's do name is equal to input of what's your name? What is your name? And then we can say print hi name, and whatever they type in, we're going to say hi. 9.5. Oh, Bendawi? Bendawi? That's probably how you say it there. They got a bunch more I's there, but you want a dad joke? You got it. So 12 credits a semester, 120 for the degree, 12 credits. All right, what's your name? I'll type Eric. And it says hi, Eric. Right? So it doesn't have to be integers or deal with numeric values. It can deal with strings as well. So a string is just a bunch of text. So whatever text they type in, we're going to assume is your name. Okay. So let me see. I keep a collection. Anytime I find a good one here, I save it on my phone for you folks. Let's go grab it here. Let's see. Where is it? Oh, goodness. Here we go. So I was, the kids were interested in looking at the stars and the moon and things, and it's kind of fun to be able to do that. But we didn't have a telescope. And I asked him, well, have you ever used a telescope? I asked my son, have you ever used a telescope before? And I said, you should really look into it. He didn't think it was all that funny. All right, how about another one? All right, this one's a freebie. So a weasel walks into a bar. The bartender says, wow, I've never had a weasel come in before. What can I get you? Pop, goes the weasel. It's a really good Michigan joke too, right? Because we call it pop here. All right, I'm going to try my debugger again here. I've rebooted. I think it's going to work for me. So again, to put a breakpoint in, you just, over on this gray space here, next to the line numbers. Yeah, no, it worked. Perfect. You just click, and it will put that big fat red dot in. What that's going to do is when the code gets to this point, it's going to pause. Now, notice we're not there yet. right? And that's okay, as we're going to pause down when we calculate our number of semesters to go. So we can go through all the other prompts here. So hourly pay rate, hours worked this week, 12 credits, 120 for the degree, 12 completed. Now it's going to pause. So it hit this point here. Now it's waiting for me to tell it what to do next. This is fantastic. This is the debugger view, and you can see all of your variables. Sorry, I can't zoom that in. It's a little small, but you'll see here's the variable called credits completed. Its value is 12. Here's the variable credits remaining. Its value is 96. So you can see everything that's being stored by Python. Every variable that we have, we see the value of, and we can see what is happening with the program line by line by line. And we got a couple new options here. So this is your debugger menu. Most of the time we're going to use the step over. Looks like a little up arrow, like up and down. It's stepping over. So usually we want to use step over. My wife sent me to get 6 bottles of Sprite from the store. When I got home, I realized I picked 7-Up instead. That's a good one. I like it. So if we step over, we'll see that this line of code will run, and we'll wait for the next one. But the other fun thing we can do, if I go to credits remaining, you can right-click and say set the value. So instead of being 96, let's say 100. And I can go modify the value behind the scenes as my program's running. Now when I step over my number of semesters to go, 8.33333333. On and on and on. We can keep on stepping. And then when I got to that prompt, it's just waiting for me. So I have to flip back to that console. So this is the Debugger tab. There's a console tab. It's waiting for me to type in my name. So I'll type Eric Chinesky. And then we get back to the debugger. It's waiting at this print line. We can tell it to go. And then it's done. You see, hi, Eric Chinesky. Life is good. Cool. So this is a lot of fun. The debugger is fantastic. We can see exactly what's happening here behind the scenes. So if you're not sure why it's doing certain calculations or it looks like something's coming up wrong, you can put that breakpoint in and it will pause the execution and you can see the value of everything. All right, I think that's actually all we have today, so we'll be in good shape. Don't forget you need to do the check-in procedures with the Responsiblue app or print off that thing from home, but I think you'll all have the app to check in at one of the entrances. I believe there's an entrance with a greeter there or a screener there in HPEC. I haven't actually been to campus yet to confirm that, but plan to spend a little bit of extra time figuring out how to get into the building, going through that process. And again, they have to do it one at a time, so there might be a bit of a line. I heard it's gone relatively smoothly so far, so it should be in good shape, but just give yourself a couple extra minutes. Or, I mean, if you get to lab a little late, no big deal. Okay, just in front of the ELB. Thanks, Trumpet Man. Yeah, so the ELB is connected to, next to HPEC. So that you can't get directly into the HPEC building. We have to go through the ELB. That's our new pretty building, a real expensive one. Did a big fundraiser for. I hear it's really nice, though, so it's exciting to have newer rooms. For a while I had a class in there, and it was just this like big cement rectangle or cinder block rectangle. It was this old nasty looking room, so I'm excited for something a little nicer. That's pretty cool. So yep, I'll see you folks Monday then for lab. Again, if you don't want to come in person, I get it. It's no big deal. And awesome, they got good signage. That's awesome. I mean, we've had plenty of time to prepare, so I think we're doing a decent job of getting ready for this. Okay, so yeah, we'll take you to it. If you get lost, give me a call. I can probably talk you through how to get there. Not too big of a deal. You know, we can even pull up a map too. Look at this. You know, Dearborn campus map. I bet we can find one real quick. Look at that. It's even in our image search. So this is the ELB building right here. Can I make that bigger? Yeah, maybe I can make that. There we go. This is the ELB building. So there's lots of parking over in the parking garage, up over on this side, the east side. No, I'm sorry, that's northwest. Oh, wow. The compass on this is super weird. Okay. So lots of parking over here, typically in the parking garage. I don't think parking's that big of an issue. I mean, it used to be a really big issue. Or lots of parking by the ELB as well. So if you park over by the Castle building or the UC, you got a bit of a hike across campus. So try one of your closer lots. You should be in better shape. The ELB is the entrance here, and then HPEC, we're on the first floor over in this building here. Okay? We should be able to go from there. And they should direct you there. But if you get lost, let me know. All right. That's all I got today. Yes, so you don't have access to the zybook without paying for it, Bendowie. So you've got I think it's $77. So you can essentially print the chapter as a PDF to keep the contents of it on your computer, but you'll lose the interactive access after the semester's up. Yep. All right, cool. So why don't we send a raid off just for fun, see who else is out in Twitch land, and we can go from there. So I'm going to put on my ending screen. It loads better this way. And I'll see you folks Monday, or if not, back lecture Tuesday here on Twitch. Who is around? Oh, not a lot of people, actually. That's surprising. Let's see. See who we got. I didn't actually know you could buy it through the bookstore. That's really weird, Trumpet Man. I thought you just would go to the website. I think they should have just said go to zybooks.com or whatever and punch in this code. I'm sorry if they charged you more. That's crazy. Let's see. Is anybody around? Ooh, Rob is around. Yeah, let's go take a look at RWX Rob. He's awesome. He's a great guy. Does a lot of live coding streams. Does some interesting stuff out there. We'll take a look. Go say hi, just for fun. Folks, take care. Let me know if there's anything I can do for you. If not, I'll see you Monday. Take care.